Hello everyone, my name is Sophia and today I'm here to talk about the books I read in July. So I'm gonna start off with some stats. Here in my folder from my bullet journal. And just for the people who like stats, in July I read 15 books, which is my second best reading month of the year so far for me, so that was great. I participated in the reading rush and I read 4 books for that. I read in total 4,895 pages across 15 books. My most read genre was fantasy, which is not new for me. My average rating was 3.6, which, I mean, it's good. It's like good. And my average pages read per day was 157 pages per day, so across 31 days of July, that was my average. So I think July was a really good reading month. I reread some things, I had some favorites, I had overall a lot of fun. So here, this is my spread with the books I read. And first of all, I'm starting with a short story. And honestly, this short story was 30 pages long. The name is I Hate Dragons by Sanderson, my favorite author. And short stories don't usually do it for me because I need a certain amount of time to connect with the characters in the story. And the things that are less than 100 pages don't usually do that for me. I just have a little bit of fun. But I read that on a whim. It was fine. It was good, but like, I can't connect with a 30-page short story, you know? So that was it. The next one was another Sanderson short story. The name is Shadows for Silence in the Forest of Hell, which is a fucking great name. That's a metal name. And it was really good. It was really good for a 60-page or 50-page something. I don't know. It was a lot of fun, to be honest, and the world was great, the magic was great, the suspense was great. It was overall really good. That short story is actually included in this book, which I read this month too. So, Arcanum Unbounded by Sanderson. The thing with this is that most of the short stories here I had already read before, so this time I just like looked at the snippets and the stories I hadn't read, so I didn't really read oh my god, I didn't really read this entire book this month, but like I read it, like I have read it, but I didn't read it entirely. It's good, it's a 3.5 stars. My average of the stories, it's fun. I love the Muir, I love Sanderson. This was overall a good time. The next one I read was actually one of my new favorite books of the year, and the name is Red, White, and Royal Blue by Mcquiston, a book everybody's been talking about, everybody's been raving about. This book is so hyped, and honestly, it deserves it. It's a new adult romance with a male romance at the center, and it's so good, so great. I had so much fun. I couldn't stop smiling. Like it really stayed in my heart, and I love it so much. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, obviously. The next book I read was a reread, and it is Holy Sister by Mark Lawrence. This time around, I tabbed it. This also came out this year. Oh, yeah, this came out in April, and I read it in April, and I reread it now because I reread the entire series, and I love this series so much. It's one of my favorite series of all time. It has, like, all of the main characters are women, and they're assassin nuns, but it's so much more, and Nona Gray, the main character, is one of my favorite characters of all time. Hands down, she's amazing, and this book has so many scenes that I love, so many moments that I love. It was honestly the best time. I had the best time reading this. It was amazing. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, obviously, and this series is super underhyped, so if you haven't read it, I really recommend you check it out and see if it's for you, because, man, if it is, you just hit the jackpot, because this is amazing. The next book I read was Foundryside by Robert Jackson Bennet. This tiny book, which I also tabbed, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars because it's really good. It has an amazing magic system, like it's a Sanderson level magic system. It's so well thought out, so well represented, like the way it affects their society and like the way the entire society revolves around this magic. It's really good. Unfortunately, I didn't connect with the characters. I had no emotional connection or relatability. I didn't have any of that with the characters, so while I do think this is a really good book, I wouldn't give it 5 stars for that. I'm trying to explain how I rate things because I just started on BookTube and I would like you to, you know, understand what I'm saying, how I rate things. So yeah, this is a really good book. Did not hit me emotionally, but still a really fun time. My dog actually bit the cover, but this is still good. I really liked it. The next book I read I already talked about it, is White Sand, also by Brandon Sanderson, my favorite author. I've read so much by him this year and last year, but unfortunately, as I said before, in short stories, I can't get connected, and the thing that I'm a character-driven reader, not really character-driven, I come for the plot, but I stay for the characters, and while this is good objectively, like this is an objectively good graphic novel, graphic novels just don't hold me like that. They're not my favorite medium because you're not really in the character's head and you can't see their thought process, what they're thinking. You can just see what they say and how they're drawn. So it's normal for me to not like a graphic novel, but I mean, this was fine. It just wasn't for me, so I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. And unfortunately, that was it. The next book I read was an arc, actually, an e-arc, because I'm Brazilian and I don't get physical arcs, but it was for Gideon the Ninth by Tamsyn Muir, no fucking clue. And honestly, this book, my thoughts on it are a mess in my head, because on one hand, I loved it so much. I was sobbing by the end. I got so attached to these characters, their situation. I loved it. But on the other hand, it took me about 30% of the book to really figure out what the fuck was going on. And I know that objectively, it's not, like, the craft of writing could have been done so much better. But also, I love it so much that I really did just give it 5 out of 5 stars. I rate based on enjoyment, not quality. But it is a good book. It has quality. It's just kind of messy in the beginning, like really messy. I buddy read with somebody who felt the same as me, and I see that's a pattern with people who read it. But I would still really recommend it. The dynamic between Gideon, our main character, and Harrow, her enemy, was amazing. I love their dynamic, and I would really recommend this book. 5 out of 5 stars for me. The next book I read, I have a reason for me to pick this up because I didn't plan on reading it. It's Her Royal Highness by Rachel Hawkins. And I picked it up because after Gideon the Ninth, I was craving more enemies to lovers, female romance. So I was like browsing Goodreads and I saw it was a new release. I'm like, well, I'm gonna check it out, and I really liked it. 4 out of 5 stars. It was really fun, really warmed my heart. It was exactly what I needed and exactly what I was looking for. So I don't really have any complaints except for maybe it's a little bit too cliche and young, but like, fuck it. We don't get female romances like that, so it's a good fucking time. It really is. The next thing I read was for the Reading Rush. So I participated in the Reading Rush. I completed all of the challenges except for the read a book that wasn't adapted because I didn't want to. Just because I didn't want to. And the first one I read, completing the challenge of, what was it? Read a book with 5 or more words in the title. I cheated for that. And and read a book with a non-human main character was Murderbot, All Systems Red. I separated Murderbot. I was like, Murderbot, All Systems Red. I was completely cheating. And this is a sci-fi short story by Martha Wells. and it's good, objectively good. I just expected more. I had fun with it, but I didn't connect with anything. Nothing blew me away. It was fine, so I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. I was expecting more, unfortunately. The next book I read was a book I loved. It's one of my new favorites, and it is The Rithmatist by Sanderson. I picked this up because I'm trying to finish all of the Sanderson books I've read, and honestly, this is so good, so good. It's YA. It has trademark Sanderson things, great magic system, great characters. The world here is not a focus so much, but you have to know it's like an alternative. It's like if back in the Middle Ages, this kind of magic was discovered, so it shaped the whole world, kind of. And the magic is really good. It's, I think, the best point of the story, and the next best point of the story is the characters and their dynamics and how much fun you have reading this. Don't get me wrong, it's not a light, fluffy book. Like, shit happens, but it's so much fun, and I love the ending made me so happy. And this is super underrated, even though the author is not an underrated author. This is a super underrated book, and I want everybody to read it. It's amazing. The next thing I read was The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. I read it, it was objectively good, did not really touch me, and that's all I have to say on that. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I really liked it. I would right now pump it down to 3 out of 5 because it was good. Just really didn't stick with me, and that's one of my criteria for me giving it a higher rating and really liking something, is for it to have an emotional impact, and it didn't. So it's not that it's bad, it's just that it wasn't for me. It didn't do it for me. Next book I read, it's a really popular and hyped book that I didn't like very much. It's The Secret History by Donna Tartt, and I was really expecting to like this and love this, but in the end, I did not like it. I liked it. It was fine, but it was just fine for me. I read it really quickly. I read it in 3 days. It's quickly for me, and it was fine. I don't have much to say. It's just that it honestly, I don't think this kind of book is my thing. Like, adult, literary, dark academia, I don't think that's my thing, and yeah, that's it. This is a really hype book. Everybody loves this, so take my opinion with a grain of salt. Next thing I read that was the last book for the reading rush. The next one is not for the reading rush anymore, and it's an e-arc that I got for a really hyped release called The Crier's War, and it's a female enemies to lovers YA fantasy romance, and I'm really split between how I feel about this book, because on one hand there's Crier, the main character, that I really liked her, I really like her conflict, I really like her emotions and her actions and her plot line, and then there's Ayla, is another main character. She's the person Crier is supposed to fall in love with, and honestly I thought she was really badly written. I think, not exactly badly written, I just think the author didn't know what to do with the character she created. So, in my mind, what happened was, she created Ayla, and Ayla became a character with agency within her own story. So you kind of understand her, you kind of see what she would do. And within the book, it's kind of as if the author was like, okay, I know I created this character, but I want this to happen. And organically, this character would not go in this direction, but I want this to happen, so I'll just make them do it. And it didn't feel organic, it felt forced, like it didn't do it for me. Even though I really liked Crier's plotline, I did not like Ayla's, and that made the book fall into a 2 out of 5 star for me, unfortunately. And the last book I read this month, Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. This is the Portuguese edition, which I did not read because it's been a few years since I've read anything in Portuguese, but I've owned this for a few years, and I finally picked it up on audio. So, this was really good. It was really fun. I'm getting into thrillers. This month I'm really getting into thrillers, so this was a lot of fun. It really kept me on my toes, but I did give it a 4 out of 5 stars. And I have a complaint. Like, this is overhyped. Not in that it's bad, it's just that it's overhyped because everybody says, oh my god, the plot twist is so mind-blowing. I still can't understand it, I still can't wrap my mind around it, and I'm really not trying to be, oh my god, how did you guys not get it? But like, the moment the plot twist was exposed, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. And that kind of took out the whole, oh my god, it's mind-blowing thing for me, while I still did really like this. No, that's my verdict on that. I think I read it in 1 day, 2 days. It was really quick. So that was it. Those are all the books I read in July, which was a really good reading month. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give me a thumbs up and subscribe so we can chat and build a community, I guess. I don't know how to do this. I'm new as fuck. And I hope to see you next time. Bye!